Hey there, Dave here with another episode of the unusual things that go on around my house. So I was out in the backyard and I noticed an electric line laying in the grass, and I was very careful and followed it over to a power pole that was in my yard. And it was far enough over from the edge that you could drive a car through. And it was actually a good thing, I suppose, because I didn't need to put a no speeding sign there. If you were careful, you needed to be careful. But I looked up and I saw power lines running from the pole that was in my yard over to the neighbor's house. And it kind of looked like a drunk fly had designed this, because the wire went from my pole over to a security light in the neighbor's yard. And then in order to hold all this stuff, there was a wire that supported it, that pulled on it against this balance of this other stuff that came over and blocked my driveway even more. And whoever did this must have had the guts of Evel Knievel, because the line went over to a place where it looked like it hadn't been before on the neighbor's house, came down, wrapped around the corner, wrapped around the downspout, and then went all the way down to the power meter. Now, it's not the homeowner's responsibility to run the power line, and I don't know what the electric code is about running over a downspout, but I'm not going to go over there and touch it. Anyway, so the power had been run along the tree line, but not through the property line where all the trees are all on the property line. So it was running alongside the trees, and then it went to my house. Well, instead of putting it at the, anyway, so I thought, well, you know, you could put it somewhere else, but that's where it was. So the power company came along and they hooked it back up the way it was. And so, you know, it could have been run underground, or it could have, anyway, but instead they hooked it back up. Now, I know it's their responsibility to get the power back on, and when you need power, you really appreciate those guys, and that's their job, and they come out in the rain and the storms and work, and they're amazing and they're fearless, and hats off to them. But there's the way that big companies work, and I wasn't going to spend a whole lot of time trying to be heard amongst a monopoly of, so I just, it's not my responsibility to get power to the house. And I got power back to the house, and I was very grateful. But the trees kept, limbs kept falling, and the limbs knocked the power line down again. And then the power got put back up again, and then more trees fell over and knocked over the power, and they put the power back up. And then a tree fell over and knocked over the power pole. Well, I thought, maybe something's going to happen. Things will get fixed. Things will get tidied up out there. So I came back out and looked, and there was a brand new power pole in the same place as the old power pole, except that this time it was leaning opposite from the web of wires on the other side, and the line that was balancing it was loose. And so then I noticed a big truck out at the alley, and they put a whole bunch of supports and straighteners and rods in the ground out there, and by golly, that one at the alley was straight and it wasn't going to lean at all. However, mine was still leaning. And so the wind came and it blew some more lines over, and it knocked over the power line going from the middle of my yard to the alley. So the this giant truck showed up with this great big bucket and on a crane arm, and these guys came and they cut down all the trees that line had been beside, and so there were no more trees over there. But there is one that's at near the end, and that line is pretty close to that one, but it's huge. So the line that was going from the pole in my yard that supported it, the wire kept flopping around, and finally it broke. And so it was just hanging beside the pole. Well, both sides of the pole were clear, so, you know, I really didn't have a problem with the pole being there. I know people need to have electricity. The neighbors need to have electricity. I need electricity. So everything is going pretty well. And the benefit of this is I got a leaning pole of breezes in my own, in the backyard right there. And I also noticed that it was so easy to go around the pole that I could function just fine, and kind of started ignoring it. You never look up, you know. And the real nice thing about this is that there's a nice open space over there where you can safely park a car now and not have to worry about the trees falling onto the car. So, you know, my advice for anyone else, if you're doing a project, I would say do it nice or do it twice, unless these guys don't seem to mind doing it 7, 8, 9 times. But that's okay. And anyway, this has been Dave saying be good to others. And when you're dealing with a monopoly, there is free parking. Until we meet again, go in peace.